Hello, everyone. Dr. Victoria Scribo here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. Today, we're going to look at the week ahead. That is the week from May 1st to May 8th. And we're going to look at it from the perspective of astrology, and then we're going to do a card reading on it. So let's get started here. Okay, here we go. So we're looking at the first week, and we'll start with May 2nd, which was actually, today is the 3rd, so this was yesterday. Yesterday we had two aspects that are worth talking about. One was a Mercury trine Pluto, and one was a Venus sextile Neptune. Both the trine and the sextile are supportive, opportunistic energies. Trines bring flow, ease of movement, and sextiles bring opportunity to be mentally stimulated in some way. And so the first thing we have is the Mercury trine Pluto. This is creative self-expression. In the trine energy, Mercury is how we communicate, and Pluto is the soul. So this is really the soul communicating to us. Creative self-expression of the soul. The initial conjunction of Mercury and Pluto occurred on January 4th, 2021 at 25 degrees of Capricorn. Saving symbol for that is a store filled with precious Oriental rugs. The use of cultural and artistic processes as a means to enhance personal comfort and appreciation. And the key word here is reliance on tradition. Reliance on tradition. So there is an energy of cultural talents and abilities that have enriched our lives, made our lives less basic, more comfortable, and also an expression of our cultural arts, as it were. So this trine, having it be in Capricorn, we're always dealing with the issues of responsibility, building on something, and transformation, because we're dealing with Pluto. So Pluto in Capricorn is a transformational energy. The thing is with Capricorn really is how things are structured, how our bodies are structured, what limits us. It's associated with the skin, the limitation, the boundary between the inside and the outside, and then the bones, the structure that sort of holds us up. Not necessarily what moves us, but what structures us, right? What moves us is more Mars. Mars deals with the ability to move, and the muscles, the voluntary muscles that help us to move. But this is an opportunity and an opening for us to listen to the promptings of our soul. Mercury was one of the few gods that could go down to the underworld and come back out unscathed. He was the messenger of the gods. And so Pluto has a message for us. And it is a creative, self-expressive message in the energy of the trine. The trine is a waxing Leo trine. And so we can expect our souls to be talking to us, and not just on this day, right? But the energy sort of continues as we move through the week. We also have Venus sextile Neptune. Now, Venus and Neptune, first of all, the sextile, this type of sextile is a Gemini side sextile. It is a sextile that sort of opens the lines of communication. It's about getting information. And where are we getting information from? Well, Neptune is spirit, and Venus is what we value. And so this is an opportunity for us to really sort of ask ourselves, and ourselves being what is it of value? What is valuable to me? And what is it that I want to communicate about those values? And how can I stay open to the promptings of spirit? how can I allow myself to let go of things? Neptune is the letting go of energy. It brings stuff in, but it also allows things to move out. And so we have this expression of our values, Venus, and then, of course, influenced by and made magical by its connection to Neptune. So this is really kind of a nice way to start the week, quite frankly. Let's see. So the Sabian symbol for 21 degrees of Pisces, where back on March 13th, we had the initial conjunction between Venus and Neptune, is 21 degrees of Pisces. Under the watchful and kind eye of a Chinese servant, a girl fondles a little white lamb. Growth in consciousness in its earliest tactile awareness of the wonders of unsophisticated living. This is, I've read this before, and there's another, let me see if I can find it in here, because there's another, something else that's worth saying about this degree. Hold on, let me find it. Says the Chinese servant, according to occult tradition, the original Chinese race was an extension of the humanity or root race preceding ours. Thus, the stress is upon biological factors of family and ancestors, and also on the dualism of the yang and the yin interplay. The Chinese servant represents the past as a servant for the new evolution. So it's not really, we're not really talking about Chinese per se, although it's very interesting because here in America, we're having a lot of issues with violence against Asians and Pacific Islanders because of the coronavirus, right? They're being scapegoated by this. And something that we maybe need to come into a realization with is that, you can't really do that. And that if we really look at what Asians have meant to this country, just like any of the other groups that have come to this country was built by them. So something to consider, but also we can move forward because of them. And we must, I think, come to appreciate that. Everything ultimately serves the evolution. Okay, so let's take a look at May 3rd, Monday, which is today, actually. So today we have a couple of things happening. We have Mercury ingressing into Gemini. That's occurring tonight. Of course, Mercury is the ruling planet of Gemini, and it's especially important because the North Node is in Gemini. And so whatever sign Mercury is in as the ruler of the North Node will influence the type of information that's going to help us evolve. And the North Node in Gemini is about getting the facts. Now, that being said, Mercury will be going retrograde at the end of this month in Gemini. And I believe the whole retrograde process, which is actually happening in June, is all in Gemini. And so we will have an opportunity for all this new information to come in, and then we'll have an opportunity to sort of look it over and review it. Okay, so what I would say is there's a lot of energy coming in, but we don't necessarily have to make decisions on that energy because there is going to be a time for us to review that from the inside out. We also have Mercury square Jupiter today, and this is interesting. It's the first quarter crisis in action square. Mercury and Jupiter are the planets associated with the mind. Mercury is our logical left brain, and Jupiter is our intuitive right brain. And the balance of that, right? How do we balance that? This first quarter square is a crisis in action. And so we feel the need to take an action. Those actions need to be actions that help us to build a firm foundation around perhaps a belief that we have or an inspiration that we have. Jupiter certainly is a planet that thrives on that inspirational energy, right? It inspires us. Jupiter expands us, but it expands us within the realm of Saturn. So that we have to keep in mind. There is a limitation to this expansion. The initial conjunction actually occurred 3 times, and that was because when Jupiter and Mercury were in orb of their conjunction, we went through a Mercury retrograde cycle. So the first time these 2 planets came together was January 11, 2021 at 6 degrees of Aquarius. The Sabian symbol for 6 degrees of Aquarius is a masked figure performs ritualistic acts in a mystery play. The individual's involvement in long-established patterns of activity aiming at the release of collective power. Very interesting symbol, especially in Aquarius, as we face a new world, looking at how we can be of aid to one another so that we can sort of raise all boats, right? Then we had another conjunction, February 14th of 2021 at 14 degrees of Aquarius. This was when a Mercury was retrograde. And it says, a train entering a tunnel, the ability to shortcut the process of natural evolution by the exercise of will, mental skill, and physical self-discipline. So this speaks to us is if we want to evolve, we can actually actively work in that direction. And perhaps that's exactly what we have to do. It's very interesting because this symbol is a little bit describes like infrastructure. That's so. And then March 4th, when Mercury went direct again, it conjuncted Jupiter, and we had it at 18 degrees of Aquarius. And that is a man's secret motives being publicly unmasked. The difficulty for the modern individual to keep secret his private past and his deeper motives. The fact that we're at the first quarter square crisis in action for this symbol, I think is reflected in the fact that they raided Giuliani's home and office for information. So I think that there's going to be a further unmasking. Now, this synodic cycle between Mercury and Jupiter is a year-long synodic cycle. So this is just sort of the first salvo. But we can see that there's all these different themes that are sort of coming to fruition. And it's especially important now with the relationship between Venus and Jupiter is because Mercury and Jupiter is because while Mercury is the ruler of the North Node, Jupiter is the ruler of the South Node. And so there are things that we need to let go of. There are belief systems that we need to let go of. There are opinions that we need to let go of. We can also, the South Node isn't just about letting go, but it also brings in talents and abilities that we have. And so we can utilize our imaginations. We can utilize our big picture. We can utilize our higher mindedness in this situation as well. It's not just facts, but it's a balance of facts and faith, really. So here we have the 3 conjunctions. This was the first one, January 11th. And we can see that we have Jupiter and Mercury at 6 degrees in that 10th house. This is for the US. Of course, we had Uranus. Of course, we all remember this time, right? January 11th, a very tense time for us. It was between the insurrection and after the insurrection and before Biden became president. inauguration. So this was a very tense time, tense time. And of course, we see that because this is the Washington, D.C., and thank you for being willing to look at this for those of you who don't actually live in America. But the fact that it's up in the 10th house, it really bodes well about maybe a new conversation, a new way of thinking about things in Aquarius, in a humanitarian and more collective way. Mercury conjunct Jupiter the second time occurred on the 14th of February, and we can see here, as soon as I find it. Yeah, see, here we have Mercury, and it was retrograde at that time. This time it occurred in the 6th house, And this occurred in February, so Biden was already in, and they were trying to get things really moving on the front of the vaccines and different things like that. That's sort of what was getting its feet. And it's interesting because, again, this is the US. Again, we have this conjunction, but in the 6th house of health. So we had the initial vision here for leadership, and then we have the issues with health and welfare. Okay. And let's see. And here's the third one. And this one is, let's see, where is it? I should be able to find it. Where'd you go? Here we go. This is at 18 degrees of Aquarius. And it's in the 4th house. And the 4th house is the people's. It's the people's house, actually. It's people, it's real estate, it's tribe, it's all of those things. And so we can see this expressed here as well. And here is the ingress of Mercury into Gemini. Where is it? Right there. Right there. And we can see that it is within it's within orb of the north node of the moon here, right? So this is only going to get closer and closer and eventually make a conjunction to the north node of the moon. More information is coming out, folks. This is an information. This is just loads and loads and loads of information coming to us at this time. And Vesta is actually, well, it's not quite square Mercury, but it is square the nodes. And Vesta in Virgo is what we focus on. And it's in the 9th house, which is justice. So we're focusing on justice with this aspect, Mercury in Mercury's ingress into Gemini. We also have today the Sun square Saturn. This is the first quarter crisis in action square. This is the first crisis point of this synodic cycle. It's a year-long synodic cycle when the Sun comes up to Saturn, makes a conjunction, and then moves away, and a year later makes another conjunction to Saturn. This is the way Saturn, the issues and the lessons and the themes of what Saturn in Aquarius is, this is how it becomes enlightened and illuminated, because that's what the Sun does, right? So we have the Sun illuminating Saturn. Now we get to this first quarter crisis in action. So the seed was planted on the 23rd of January. That, of course, was after Biden was in here, and it was at 5 degrees of Aquarius. So this was the conjunction point of Saturn, the structure of our reality, and the Sun illumination. And it says 5 degrees of Aquarius, a council of ancestors is seen implementing the efforts of a young leader, the root foundation of past performances, which power and sustain whatever decisions is made in a crisis by an individual. So this is a sense, another sort of theme, and we'll see this theme come up over and over again. We'll see it later in this week, where there is a group of people holding the consciousness, for somebody to step forward and lead in this very challenging time. So there is this energy of spirit embodying decisions, and spirit it's aiding those who have the power to actually do what is necessary, but I think in a more evolved way, perhaps. Okay, so the sun, the saving symbol for the sun at 14 degrees of Taurus, because the sun is now at 14 degrees of Taurus and Saturn is at 14 degrees of Aquarius. So this is the square. This is the crisis, right? It says a train entering a tunnel. We've seen that before. The ability to shortcut the process of natural evolution by an exercise of will and mental skill and physical self-discipline. Square, 14 Saturn at 14 degrees of Aquarius. On the beach, children play while shellfish grope at the edge of the water, returning to simpler joys for revitalization. So there is this sort of push-pull here between just sort of wanting to be at the beach and relax and, you know, be one with nature and be out there and such, and also the hard work it takes to sort of dig the tunnel through the side of the mountain, right? It takes self-discipline, and it takes work. And so to me, it feels like a balance between those things, a balance between hard work and then making sure that you're taking time to do the things that bring you joy, or that relax you, or that help you to decompress. I think it's really important at this time that we pay attention to that. So here is the Sun-Saturn conjunction that occurred on January, was it 28th? I can't read that actually, sorry guys. And there it is at 5 degrees, is in the 5th house. 5th house is the house of children. It's the house of creative self-expression. That sort of goes along with one of the symbols there, I think, that's coming up in the square. And then here we have the sun first quarter square to Saturn. Here's the sun. Here's Saturn. We have Saturn up here in the 10th house in Aquarius. This 10th house in a mundane chart is the president, the leaders, the government, so to speak, and then the sun here in Taurus in the first house, and actually very close to Uranus. So the Sun-Uranus conjunction just happened a couple of days ago, the 30th, right, of April. All of May really can be encapsulated to a certain extent in that last day of April. It really is about opening up to a whole new world. Uranus breaking us open, and having us have our eyes wide open. All the stuff we couldn't see, and the stuff that we felt but we weren't sure, all of that's coming out. All of that is coming out for us to get an eyeful. So be prepared for that, guys. Be prepared for that. On the 6th of May, Thursday, we have Pluto trine Venus. This is occurring at 27 Capricorn Taurus. Pluto's at 27 Capricorn, and Venus is at 27 Taurus. This is creative self-expression. The Sabian symbol for the initial conjunction when these two planets were together, and let's see, that occurred on January 28th. Here we go. Where is it? Venus and Pluto. I know it's here. Here we go. Here's Venus and Pluto, right? I think it was the same day that the Sun and Jupiter made a conjunction on that day. It was very interesting. Anyway, the Sabian symbol for 26 of Capricorn, the nature spirits dancing in the iridescent mists of a waterfall, the ability to receive the hidden and creative spirit of natural phenomena. One of the things that Taurus brings, especially with Uranus and Taurus, is a real spiritual and awakening connection to the earth. The earth is not our enemy. The earth is our mother. And she holds within her, the healing balm that is necessary, where we have to cooperate with her. It's my neighbor not cooperating with Mother Nature. I don't know if you can hear that. Some god awful sound. He just loves like loud things, and we can't stand loud things here. Even we don't even leaf blow. We rake. If leaves are going anywhere, we rake them up. The old-fashioned way, quiet and meditative. Okay. Sorry about that. Oh gosh. So Pluto trine Venus. Pluto is our desires, our unconscious desires. Venus is what we value. When Pluto and Venus get together, it's always a very tumultuous and passionate combination. A deep appreciation of that which is of value to us. The Sabian symbol for that initial conjunction, right, was at 26, right? We talked about that, the nature spirits. And this is the trine. We have Sabian symbol for that shouldn't be Saturn, actually. That should be Pluto, sorry. Pilgrims climbing the steps leading to a mountain shrine, the ascent of the individualized consciousness to the highest realization reached by spiritual leaders of its culture. Trine 27 Venus, an old Indian woman selling the artifacts of her tribe to passersby. Peaceful adaptation to collective needs. So this is a real flow. And you know what's interesting is Pluto at 27 degrees of Capricorn is on the Pluto of the United States. It is moving retrograde now. It's moving away. It was not exact. We will not have the exact Pluto return until 2022, but we are feeling it, and we are in the middle of it, really, because it's not actually, it's more intense now even than perhaps when we go through the actual return, because it's with astrology, it's when things are moving towards it that it gets most intense. Now it's starting to back off a little bit, but it's not gonna, I don't think it's gonna be more than 2 degrees away. So I mean, it's really just there, right? It's really just there. Okay. And May 8th on Saturday, we have Venus ingress into Gemini. And we also have a Venus square Jupiter. This is a crisis in action on seeds planted on the initial conjunction of Venus and Jupiter that occurred on February 11th at 13 degrees of Aquarius. The Sabian symbol is a barometer, the ability to discover the basic natural facts that allow us to plan in advance. So we all kind of have to be barometers for our lives. What are we feeling? What pressures are being put upon us, and what do we need to do about them? Here is the conjunction, and where is it here? Venus, Jupiter, Venus, Jupiter. Where's Venus? Here's Venus. There's Jupiter, and there was the conjunction in the 10th house again. So a lot of these conjunctions are occurring in that house of leadership, So Venus square Jupiter, the Sabian symbol for 30 degrees of Taurus, which is where Venus is, a peacock parading on a terrace of an old castle, the personal display of inherited gifts. That is square the Sabian symbol for 30 degrees of Aquarius, deeply rooted in the past of a very ancient culture, a spiritual brotherhood in which many individual minds are merged into the glowing light of unanimous consciousness, is revealed to one who has emerged successfully from his metamorphosis. Here's another sort of symbol of somebody coming into leadership that has been through some sort of spiritual initiation. Could that be you? Could that be you? The keynote here is the ability for the person with an open mind and a deep feeling for self-transcendence to come into contact with higher forms of existence. So the help is out there for us, folks. The help is out there. This is a first quarter square, crisis in action. What do we do? If you don't know what to do, ask for help. Ask from spirit. Ask from your friend. Ask from somebody who knows something about what you're going through. We're not in this alone. We're all in this together. And we might as well utilize that to help one another, to be of help, and to get help. All right, guys. Much, much, much good. Much goodliness. Okay, so let me stop the share. Good. And now we're going to do a card reading for this. Okay, let me just had to make sure that was still going on. Let me see. I want to see if I can utilize the light. Hold on one second. I'll be right back. I had to go look for my cards. All right, we're going to use the Light Seers deck. See what comes up for this. So this is the week of May 1st to May 8th. And what's ahead? What do we need to be aware of? We have Mercury changing signs. We have Venus changing signs. We have these squares coming up, these crises in action. Let's see. Next week we have new moon. We're also in the last quarter now, starting today, I believe, the last quarter of the cycle. So it is about individuation. It's about working for the common good. And then ultimately it's about letting go and finding meaning in your experience. And this is part of that very, very powerful Aries new moon that occurred. Oh God, when was that? April. Can't remember the day. Sorry about that, guys. But it was at 23 degrees of Aries. Right? If you have anything at 23 degrees of Aries, this was a powerful new moon for you. It's actually conjunct my husband's Mercury and trine my Uranus. So, woo, change. All right. Almost. These are so slippery, these cards. All right. Immediate environment. We have the Nine of Pentacles, the Nine of Pentacles. So we see this woman in her garden and she's picking the fruits of her labor. There's a beautiful, looks like an African gray parrot here. Let me see. Yeah, it looks like an African gray. One of the smartest birds, and most vocal birds, I think. Where is it? Ooh, 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 ooh. There we go. Right, that looks like an African gray. Maybe it's a falcon. I don't know. And there's the woman. Is she beautiful? Let's see what's challenging that. So this is about the fruits of our labor and being able to utilize the fruits of our labor, etc. What's challenging that? The wild endings and beginnings. And so for some of us, there is a sense of something is coming to an end, but that's just previous to a new beginning. But it can also be the world pressing in on us. Like we're in our garden. That Nine of Pentacles is sort of a self-made woman, right? She's worked hard. She has this environment that she's a part of, that she feels comfortable in, that enriches her life. And then we have the world sort of knocking on her door, right? Knocking on her door. At the root of this is the Magician. Look at that. Isn't that a beautiful card? Freaking love this card. Right? To infinity and beyond. So the magician at the root of the reading says, what you focus on, you will create. What you focus on, you will create. So figure out what it is that you want to create and focus on that. In the past, we have justice, but it's reversed. So I think this was the lack of justice, at least here in the United States, that we experienced through the Trump administration. Let's see what's in the sky. We have the Ace of Pentacles, new beginnings, new beginnings. So there's potential for new beginnings. Very fertile time, right? It's May. It's one of the most fertile times. It's actually my favorite month. I love May. We got married in May, actually. And the immediate future, we have the Four of Cups, Four of Cups. So if you're feeling, there we go. If you're feeling, what is that? Ennui? Perhaps you need to look at what's being offered to you instead of being stuck in that sense of what else? What now? Why don't I feel satisfied? Why don't I? Because you're not connecting with spirit. You're not connecting with spirit. So if you're feeling any of those things, you must connect with spirit. How it's seen from the outside, the Knight of Wands. This is action and movement and just we're moving again. We're moving again. It's fire, it's creation. It's like getting on the road, going out, going on trips. You know, people are starting to move again in this country anyway. The domestic situation, we have the Six of Pentacles. This is giving and receiving in balance. You see the infinity symbol there? See that? Infinity, giving and receiving. As you give, so shall you receive. So if there's somebody who is less fortunate than you, then it behooves you to help them. If you are in a situation where you have lack, it behooves you to accept help, because there will come a time when you will be able to give help and the other person will need help, and so on and so on and so forth. Hopes and fears, the Knight of Cups. As a hope, I think, or as the Knight of Cups is very much an energy of idealism and imagination and love, and then, of course, the fear is that it's all that the person or that the situation can't sustain it. You know, the Knight of Cups is in love with love, but he's not really good at relationship because love is too perfect. He doesn't want to sully it. So there's that. And the Hierophant, number 5, is the outcome. I love these cards. Look at this guy. He is laughing. He is laughing. He's a happy guy. There's the Tree of Life, the ascension process, all connected to the earth. This is a shaman. This is a shaman. And the Hierophant card speaks of the small, still voice within. So this says to me that magic is afoot. The goddess is alive and magic is afoot. Don't waste this time. Utilize it for the benefit of yourself, your benefit for your community, the benefit for others. It is a magical, magical time. Focus on what you want to create. All right, guys. Have yourself a great week. Much love. Namaste. Like and subscribe.